Right. Hello and welcome to Six Figure Souls Doing Good and Making Money. This is a very special season 7 highlighting my co-authors of our new collaborative book project, The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Successful Soul Professional. I am your host, Camille Miller, lead author for the project and pioneer for the soul professional movement. Today we have an interview highlighting Renée McDonald. She is the AOTT director, the founder of Well-Being for Me and Butterfly Courage private practice or practitioner. Thank you, Renée, for being with us. We will talk about all of these things too. So I'm so excited to have you join us and be a part of our book. I know originally we spoke a while ago, right? A couple months ago when I was first searching for people to be in the book, and I loved your story. I loved your growth from therapist to all of you're doing now, including writing another book and your app that's coming out. So if you can you start us off by just talking a little bit about who you are and what you did before, and then we'll take it from where you are now and go forward. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. I think the biggest, thank you. Yeah. So I think the biggest making of me, and thanks for having me on, like the biggest making of me was my life before being a private practitioner or someone working in private practice as a therapist. So a lot of people often think of the therapist as the one in the corner office, or just someone who you can go see for your therapy week in, week out, whatever, that kind of thing. But I've got a bit of a backstory even before becoming a therapist that actually makes me the therapist that I am, and then why I'm now doing what I'm doing. Like it's quite a lengthy story that you'll have to get my book if you're interested. But but basically, in summary, I come from an interesting background where my father was a psychiatrist and my mum was a statistical psychologist, medical researcher. That's one thing. And because my father was a psychiatrist, we actually lived in a psychiatric facility when I was growing up. So that's an interesting kind of.
That is interesting.
I'm like second generation mental health professional. So that's one thing. Okay. And then my mum was a professional actress. So that's another thing. So that's another layer. And then that lent me to working in the creative arts field. And so I worked in the creative arts field, but particularly behind all the film productions and other things like that. So I worked alongside creatives and became a professional creative as well as film researcher, music licensor, things like that. I was a band manager at one point, so there's interesting kind of stuff that I've done. I guess life has given me lots of lemons and I've learned how to make lemonade. So that's probably the best way to put my life story. So every time I've hit brick walls, I've just gone, okay, of course, I've gone through the, grief, loss, and maybe dark nights. I've gone through lots of dark nights of the soul. And instead of depression, I've really never called it that. For me, it's always been almost like this rebirthing process. And I think my parents actually called me the right name, because Renée means reborn, rebirthing. And literally, I've gone through massive rebirthings in my life, probably at least 7-8 times over, to the point where, weirdly enough, I shouldn't even be alive. So, and again, you'll get that stuff in my book. But yeah, so I guess from interesting backgrounds, then things happening to me, and I guess it's almost like that. The consciousness stuff. I don't know if you're on top of the 4 levels of consciousness, but it's is something happening to you? Is something happening, for you, through you, as you? So I believe I've gone through that process, and that's that's where I'm going with my business, the kind of levels of consciousness stuff. So I found meditation along the way. I've gone to lots of retreats, done lots of my own therapy. So really interesting hanging out previously in a previous life with, stars and, all sorts of people in the film industry across the world. So nothing has made me think like I'm just in private practice. So hence, when I get lemons from my professional associations, I'm still part of professional associations. When I get those lemons, I just think that that's just it takes me a while to kind of regroup. And I've done my own therapy and coaching as a result. But often then I go, hang on a minute, it's them who the other who's holding me back. Why am I holding myself back?
Right.
So I've gone through this process, and I guess I now help people go through that process too. So it's a process of unlearning what you've been told from others. It's a process of regrouping, rebirthing, and then deciding how you want to be now. If you've had things thrown at you, if you've had detractors, I'm definitely here to support those people out there. And then if you know you're built for more stuff, always felt deep down, there's been always a soul calling in me. No, this is too low level crap that I'm dealing with now. I need to do something more. So I've always been pulled for, I need to do something more. So with all of that has meant that when I had the experience of COVID happen, my business was ready for COVID in my industry when no one else was.
Yeah.
And so I'd set up my online practice 6-7 years prior to COVID. I'd been online for about 12 years now, but, dabbled in it, then set it up. Then I was able to go 100% online at the start of COVID, when no one else in my industry was doing that.
Yeah.
And that's just before COVID, about a year before COVID, I was became the director of my company. So, and my company is very agile. I do a lot of different things. So people have come to me. So, I've trained 15 clinicians in Hong Kong, clinical psychologists in Hong Kong to work online, for example, at a university facility. So I don't stop at just working with private practitioners to help them do their business.
Right.
I see that's also limiting too, in the just staying in your lane, just being your niche kind of thing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that might be also challenging for some people to hear too, listening to this. So it's more like, if opportunity knocks, it's, are you ready? The question is, are you ready when opportunity knocks?
Yeah.
That's probably my story in a nutshell.
Yeah. I think as an entrepreneur, it's also recognizing the opportunity, right? Because so many times I see people saying no, and they don't understand that this could be huge, like take the chance.
Yes.
Or they're saying, I'm not ready, it's not my time, it's right.
Yeah.
And I think part of entrepreneurship is being able to pivot on a dime, right? I think COVID was a game changer for a lot of people. Right? Yes. You either made it or you were broken.
Yes.
And it was a big game changer. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I went for not a 6-figure business to a 6-figure business because of COVID. So that's, and I was building and I was nearly there, but COVID just went whoosh. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did the same job. We're like, whoa. We were like backpedaling. Yeah. So I know from there, you're doing all of these other things, right? Your book, your app, and you've also recently come up with the Heart and Soul movement. Isn't that a new trademark that you have?
Yeah. It's been around for 10 years.
Oh,
so Heart and Soul. Okay. Yeah. Heart and Soul movement is my retreats and workshops.
Okay.
So because I've been to lots of women's retreats and all those kind of things, I do my own version of that too. However, what happened was that built up to a point, and again, COVID was both great and not so good for that area. Again, pivoting stuff.
Yep.
Because it was a face-to-face thing, so it really is a face-to-face thing.
Gotcha.
Can't really do that. Like, so I can do sessions like this, but in terms of the workshop side of that, it's very much the way I've designed it is very much a in-person thing. So it has been tricky to do that. And so that's still there if people want to contact me about that stuff, because I've got unique IP in that area too.
You have a lot of
I
have to say that about you, and that's what I loved about our first conversation. I felt like you were one of those entrepreneurs that had so many balls in the air and were keeping them in the air. Right? And I think a lot of us are creatives, entrepreneurs, I think by design are creatives, right? A lot of us have like ADHD, and we love all these different things and we don't know what to follow, and we kind of get lost in those paths sometimes. But I feel like you have made beautiful businesses in all of these different arenas. And now you're coming out with a book talking all about your story, I assume.
Yes. So it's my story to business owner, really. Like, so from private practitioner, in Australia we call it sole trader. So from sole trader to owning a company. So it's pretty much my story to that. And it's called Rising with Butterfly Courage. And it's basically 10 chapters of my story. It's a hybrid book, so I felt like it had to be. So it's a hybrid book of personal story linked with business deliverables, linked with new formula on how to actually produce your own unique results.
Oh, it sounds like a great book. I'm excited to see it. And it's coming out the same time as ours, right around July?
Similar time, but probably it's going to be end of April, early May. So probably just a little sooner. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And do you want to tell us about your app? I know that you're in the middle of developing, and that's like a whole different, to me, developing an app from going from therapy to like organizing all the things you do and then go, I think I'll develop an app. Tell us about that whole discovery process, or what that about, and how
well, again, because I'm a creative, but I'm creative in tech, and there's not that many people who are creative in tech, because I've worked online for the last 12 years. I've had lots of people knock on my door, and I've had lots of people ask me to do an app. But it was this, I don't know what it was, divine timing, whatever. This Indian company knocked on my door and it felt right. But on top of that, I've actually helped other people develop apps themselves. Okay. So I've been part of.
I didn't know that.
So that's the thing. And I've learned from that process. And if you look on my LinkedIn, I was part of this group called Bonzest. They actually ran out of money, but guess what? I learned a lot through that process, and I learned what not to do. And so those people who are app developing, please talk to people about what you shouldn't do. Rather than just go boots and all into your own project.
I think that's important in any entrepreneurship journey, right? Is to find mentors, people that are where you want to be, and that will share the mistakes they made along the way. And I mean, that's literally in our co-authored book, that's what I wrote about. I wrote about my mistakes, some huge ones I've made along the way, but I look at them more as lessons, right? That was part of my journey, and I don't really regret them or have any shame around them, and that's why I put them in there. I was like, it's part of my story, and I made some huge mistakes. But that made me who I am today, right? I'm better because of that.
Absolutely.
So I know you have all of these balls in the air. What do you think is one thing that keeps you going, keeps you developing, keeps you finding all new things to jump into, creating, I should say?
my growth mindset.
Ah, I love that.
I try to stay with a growth mindset with everything. It doesn't mean I don't have my hard days. I mean, the last week or two has been really tough, but that's just, there's a lot of personal stuff going on, so it doesn't mean for a second I don't feel all the feels, but it's then about, well, what is this teaching me? What can I learn from this? And what can I bring back into my business work practice in order to learn from this to service or serve differently? That what am I experiencing this for so that I can serve others?
Beautiful. Yeah. That I think that's it for a lot of soul aligned entrepreneurs, to be honest with you. It's that we feel like we have a purpose that's bigger than ourselves, right? That
Yes.
shines through. And
Yes.
I said this in an earlier interview. I felt in the beginning when I was creating, I thought I didn't have any gifts. So I just wanted to help other people find theirs. Right. I've learned along the way that, all of us are gifted in some area, right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's what we need to share with the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely.
So Renée, what made you decide to be a co-author and share in the collaborative book project? Especially
Right.
since you're always writing your own.
Well, I guess this is the thing about what we were just talking about, like, and that's interesting because even just answering this question, I almost need to get guidance. Like, it's bizarre, but it's about feeling your way into things rather than just saying no or just saying yes. It's about looking into things, but also tapping into your soul alignment. Is this good for my soul to do this? Does this person feel aligned with what I do? That's the key for me, and it felt very aligned. And your soulprofessional.com and Heart and Soul Movement, like, really,
Yeah. I think the first time we spoke, I know we had a tough time getting on, and the time zones and things were going wrong. But when we finally connected, we spoke for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like, it was long. We had a good conversation. Yes, totally connected. Yeah, so I love that. What remind everyone or tell everyone, what is the name of your chapter?
It's the USP solution.
And USP stands for?
So USP is your unique selling point or your unique selling proposition. Some people call it either or. So, it's much of a muchness, but if you want to talk about it as, interestingly enough, often use the word proposition in my own business, but I think we're using point in this chapter. So, and it's about, what are you proposing to the world? Yeah. And so what is the point of you?
Oh, what a different way to think of your business plan. I love that. I have not read anyone's chapters yet, so I don't read into the final. Yeah.
I didn't actually go into that in the chapter because I feel like there was so much other stuff I needed to cover, if that makes any sense at all.
I love that as an idea, because especially working with entrepreneurs, I remind them all the time that they have all the answers within them.
Yes.
Right. And they have to shine through. Like, they are unique, and 2 or 3 or 10 people can have the exact same business, but it will never actually be the same business. There is no competition because you are the unique differentiator.
Yes. And on that note, in my book, Coming, there's a chapter about there is no competition.
I love that. I totally believe that. I totally believe that. And that's a good reason why we're doing the book, why I run the community that I run. It's people coming together to help each other be better at every level. Right? It's CEOs that are trying to do things. It's people that are brand new in the business trying to do things. And the whole idea of it is to always give back.
Yes,
So when you're
yes,
hitting a 500,000, you're helping those other people hit their first
yeah,
100,000.
yes,
When you're hitting
yes,
100,000, you're helping the people that are making 50,000. And so we all
exactly.
rise together. So we all learn.
Um, and actually, one of my business mentors says a rising tide lifts all boats.
I love that. I love that saying. Yeah. And I
Mm,
believe that. I believe we need
mm.
more of that in the world.
Absolutely. Rather than the detractors and the naysayers and the trolling and all the other stuff that goes online, it's rubbish. It's such rubbish.
Yes. Agreed.
Um, and that's happened to me. But every time I've just gone, what am I letting those people say that stuff about me about? Like, then that's about them more than it's about me, you know?
Absolutely.
And they can't see past their own limiting beliefs to actually realize that they could have a slice of any kind of success if they chose to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Awesome. Renee, how can people tell us your book coming out again. Tell us about that.
Yes,
And then how people can
yes,
get in touch with you to learn more about you, your book.
yep, yep. So my book is Rising with Butterfly Courage, and that will be out like end of April, early May. It's really only a few weeks off publishing. We've done all the editing, all that, and I've even chosen the book cover, and so it's probably just a little bit further
There.
along than
Yep.
this one, but yeah. So you'll be able to get it on Amazon, and there'll be a lot of other bookstores, I'm sure, that will pick it up. It's actually an American published book. You'll find that interesting because I'm Australian. So I've worked with a writing mentor for the last couple of years on it. So it's been a lot of research. So there's a lot of research that's gone into it. So, ever the researcher myself, because I've done a master's and all that kind of stuff, I wanted to make sure it was good and actually valid for everybody reading it, so that it's not just my story. There's a point to my story, and there's even you helping others to find their unique selling point or proposition. Yeah. So so it's same but different to the book that you're doing, except I guess it's just my story, but it's also got formula. It's got I've got the relationship builder bucket. There's all sorts of things. So I've got some unique trademarks in there, and the trademarks are all about how do you make sure that you're building quality relationships in business so that they stand the test of time, rather than just using up your contacts. That's never what I want to do. And so, for example, many of the people I mentor, I've mentored for many, many years. Some of them 15, 16 years since I started in private practice. And they've seen me through all of this journey. Yeah. And so I guess just putting it out there that, I love to mentor people. And that's I think one of my biggest things is I've often been where somebody wants to be, even if it's in a small way. I'm happy to help people rise in big ways, small ways, or any way that suits them.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Mm.
Is there a website if someone wants to check you out?
Yep. So reneemcdonald.com.
Okay, that's easy. It'll also be, all of your stuff will be in the show notes as well. So, but
Yeah, and probably
this.
the other best website is aott.com.au, which is my company, and that's more about online therapy, online coaching, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Awesome, Renee. I want to thank you so much for being a co-author in our book and for
Thank you.
taking your time to allow us to interview you today.
Thanks very much for having me on.
You are so welcome. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, especially our listeners. For more information about the Soul Professional movement, you can go to soulprofessional.com. This podcast is sponsored by the Natural Life Business Partnership, a global professional organization and business incubator for the soul-aligned entrepreneur. If you live in a higher vibration, have an alternative approach to business, and want to help repair the world, join us at our next meet and greet to learn more. You can go to soulprofessional.com. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.